support Senator Ted Cruz introducing new legislation to hold China accountable for their virus cover-up, sanction Chinese officials for their corruption, their deceit, their lying. And now with reaction, Senator Cruz, I am so angry at the idea that they stopped all travel to and from Wuhan within China, but they let people in and out internationally. I'm like, that means they knew the risk and they didn't care about the rest of us.
Well, Sean, that's exactly right. China's responsibility and culpability for this pandemic is enormous. And there are at least three different aspects of what China has done that should be deeply concerning. The first you were just discussing a moment ago, which is the very real possibility that this coronavirus originated in a Chinese lab. We know that there are two labs in Wuhan, two Chinese labs controlled by the Chinese government that were studying not just coronaviruses, but bat coronaviruses within miles of where this outbreak occurred. And the question there were multiple State Department cables before the pandemic raising concerns about the safety and security of these labs, about them not having adequate protections. And the question the Chinese government has refused to answer is whether they were studying this particular virus, the novel coronavirus, in one of these labs, and did it escape accidentally. They are stonewalling and refusing to answer that. That's issue number one. Issue number two is their cover-up, and it is undisputed that the Chinese government for weeks kept silent, tried to hide, tried to obscure this outbreak. When you had physician whistleblowers bravely try to blow the whistle on this, the Chinese government came down on them. They silenced them, and as a consequence, had they behaved like an ordinary responsible government, there is a very real possibility we could have gone in with health professionals, contained this outbreak, quarantined those infected, and kept it as a regional outbreak rather than a global pandemic. And then the third critical element that this is underscored is the degree to which our entire supply chain has gone to China, including critical infrastructure, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices. And we have got to correct that and bring those critical supply chain back to the United States.
They hid it. They protected their own people. They let the rest of the world get infected and die. That UK study, I think this is the one you're referring to, said 95% of all this could have been prevented. That means they have blood on their hands if they did that. If that report's right, that means they did it. They saved themselves and knowingly knew the risk for the rest of the world. That would mean they have blood on their hands.
Over 140,000 people have died worldwide from COVID-19. And if China had not covered it up, had not been so afraid of being embarrassed, of having their culpability exposed, we could have prevented the vast majority of those deaths. And I think there needs to be serious accountability. There needs to be serious transparency. And the Chinese Communist government doesn't want to see it. And I'll tell you, Sean, most of the mainstream media in the United States doesn't want to see it as well. When the first reports came out about these labs studying coronaviruses from bats, you had the Washington Post, you had other mainstream media put out these reports debunking this conspiracy theory, as they called it. And they focused on what you were just talking a minute ago, the argument from scientists that it doesn't appear that this virus was created in a lab, that it appears to be naturally occurring. Well, they were answering the wrong question, because the question is not, was it artificially constructed? The question is, were they studying this virus from bats, and did they screw up and accidentally infect someone and let it out? And they don't want to answer that question. And most of the mainstream media doesn't even want to acknowledge the question exists.
Unbelievable, Senator. Thank you for all of that information, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. We appreciate it all here.